So most days now, towards the end of the day, of course, I do have work in Australia, so and the way the hours line up. But yeah, I'm going to review every playoff game in a video that's just going to go through pretty much all their games all at once. We're not going to review the individual games till we whittle them down one more series, and then we can start to make individual videos for every game. Just with time and obviously making videos with the news, and I've got a few other NHL video projects coming out. So we're going to run through it. I will wear a jersey of one of the winning teams, but I have one available. As you can see, I do not have one available. We've got about half the teams in the NHL now. And yeah, the Flyers, the Lightning, and good old Avs are not any of them. But here we go. Let's start with the mid-afternoon game, or very early morning game for me. It was 5 a.m, so I watched this one on delay because I originally was getting up at 5, and then it was midnight, and I was like, yeah, it's not happening. So I watched this one on delay, which was interesting because I got to see what everyone already said about the game before I watched it. And the one thing that everyone really said was that the Flyers pushed the pace in the first, and then the Islanders started coming back in the second and the third. But was I watching a different game? Was there a different feed that I watched? Because that first period could have really gone either way. I thought the Flyers were very, very good at finishing when they had the chances, and some individual brilliance, like the Couturier goal, for instance, was great, although Letty might want to have that one back instead of taking the body. And Varlamov, could have probably done a lot better this game. He got pulled after letting in 3 of the goals. But, he just seemed a bit flat side to side. But I still feel their defensive structure was there. They were just able to get some pucks through. Hayes got some sharp angle shots when the defenders did the right thing, even though it was a 2-on-1, and sort of stopped the pass going through. He still kind of counted as if that pass was going through. So Hayes did very well squeaking 2 pucks through. But I just felt that Hart was the real reason that game was 3-0 for as long as it was 3-0. He made some great saves. Boulevard had a great chance. Barzell was flying. Lee ended up rattling the post towards the end of that game. But yeah, when Pajot scored, I actually thought the Islanders were going to keep going and win. But yeah, come overtime, it was kind of a little bit more Flyers. It was like the second period when they were up and running and had a lot of shots, and they really dominated that first 10 minutes of that second period. I can't stress that enough. Like, I was just like, what's everyone saying they did so well in the first? It was in that second, they were so good. But yeah, Carter Hart, really made sure that Carter Hart deserves like a good star in this game, because even though he let in 1 or 2 goals that he might have been able to save, they were still high scoring chances, and he did very well. And then Myers, of all people, to get the overtime winner, just blast one from the point. It finds a way through after Couturier has a great chance in front and just rattles it off the glass. There's a few shots this game that hit the glass. It was, it was interesting. Barzell had a great game. Hayes had a great. No one's really whinging about that contract anymore, are they? I remember everyone audibly laughing. And they're like, "Oh God, it's another one of those Flyer Andy McDonald-like contracts, right?" But no, this one's worked out. If he keeps scoring like this. He's had a slow playoff scoring-wise goals thus far. Obviously, 2 helps it and brings it to 3. But he's had 9 points this postseason off 11 games. So, I think he's doing pretty well fine. But yeah, I still am thinking right now, I'm still giving this series edge to the Islanders. I still think that they'll be able to come up and find a way to win. That game, that percentage game, I feel like Flyers aren't going to win that type of game every time. It's probably like 40% of the time, and Islanders win 60%. So if it keeps going, I think the Islanders will squeak this out. But we've at least got a good series there. And then we move to Boston and the Lightning. And oh boy. Let's start with Halak. 7-1 was the score. Let's start with Halak. Ever since that series, and I remember he pretty much robbed with Camilleri. He pretty much robbed the Pittsburgh Penguins back, a decade ago now. And but I noticed the next series, he got tired, and the whole thing was saying that Halak always needs a break. And he's always been like that throughout his whole career. He's always needed a break. So playing back-to-back, even though some of these goals weren't his fault, he didn't look he didn't look sharp, he didn't look good, and he didn't make an amazing save that may have G'd up the team that also looked very flat. It really looked like a game that like Boston played yesterday, but the Lightning didn't, even though they did. It was really weird. Like the Lightning had a lot of energy, a lot of breakaway chances, which was just odd, like in the playoffs, to have that much room to just be having breakaway chances over and over. It wasn't like one defensive lapse either. It was like quite a few that led to, a significant amount of goals being scored. I mean, 7, and most of it was in the first 2 periods. And the first period was quite even. That was the other alarming thing, was the first period was even. Shots-wise, they both just couldn't really get shots on net, and then all of a sudden Lightning could, and that's it. They won. Very hard to analyse that game. Like, very, very difficult to analyse that game. Lightning were the better team. It just seemed after they lost in overtime, and this is not like Boston, so I'm curious how they rebound, but after they lost in overtime yesterday, when that Chara goal went in, and I mean the one Pilatic came off Chara's stick and went in, usually Boston just keep coming. They always believe they can win. It was like at that moment they're like, oh, the game's lost. And that's the way the rest of the game went. Like it was like that was the defining moment. Also, they gave up a lot of power plays. Like you can't give up that many power plays. It was just a tired team doing stupid things. But you can't give the Lightning 6 power plays and then not kill a few off. They killed off the first one great. Like they actually got a lot of momentum from that, some scoring chances. But after that, it was all Lightning. They scored 3 goals on the power play. Including one right after they got their own power play goal. Point moves up to getting 15 points thus far in the playoffs, 6 goals, 9 assists, so he's had an unreal time right there. And Kucherov tied the goal leader for the franchise in Martin St. Louis in the playoffs. Which is pretty crazy when like Le Cavier and St. Louis and a few of the other names, and he almost got more goals than them. That's, oh boy. But yeah, I actually tipped, actually put a bit of money on this game. Nothing too big, but that Boston would lose just because I thought Halak on a back-to-back game would not do well. Even though I don't think he was really the liability, just the whole team kind of sunk after that first goal. But they didn't get a special performance from anyone, and I felt like they just needed one person to just lift and be like, okay, yeah, we can do this. Like we can match that. They never got it. They just looked flat this whole game. So I'm curious how they go in their next game, which is 2 days from now. So they got plenty of time to regroup here, Boston. If they win next game, it's all on. Otherwise, the Lightning really have a chance to close them out. And that has been the problem with the Lightning. And I would say Boston in some series of being inconsistent and getting behind in series and then having to claw their way back. And maybe not having enough gas in the later series. But I think they'll be able to come back in this one. But the fault on the Lightning is they get like this in a series and then they just don't close it out. And I'm worried they might do the same thing. But we'll see. Vasilevsky has been the better goalie out of the two. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next game. This is an interesting series. That I still think somewhat even though it's 2-1 Lightning. A team was after a 1-1 always going to be 2-1. I don't give them quite the edge, so yeah, we'll go from there. And then we went to probably one of the funnest games that we've seen thus far in the playoffs, outside of almost every game that Vancouver plays, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Holy crap, was that third period just like edge of your seat. I had my lunch break at work just watching that third period with like my mouth open, just like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. It was just trading, and I remember we have an Australian hockey chat with a few other guys. We're all spread around, and I was watching on a delay, and I said like, oh my god, when Dallas got the lead, and I was like, they're done, and he was like, oh, I'm on a delay. And then I was like, oh, there's another, oh my god. And it was it was Colorado tying it. And then I was like, oh, there's another, oh my god. Colorado's got the lead. It was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. Just how Dallas came back from 2 down, and then got the lead, and then immediately blew it, and it just went from there. But yeah, it's still, Francouz does not give me confidence. That first goal, he's like covering Ben, like in front of the post almost, and just leaves it open for a pretty easy tap in for Sagan. Or he just had to get something on that, and that was a goal, and that's what happened. And then the second period, it all started going the Avs' way for once this series. They were able to find some dead space and some turnovers. Burakovsky's goal is a good example of that, a turnover, and he's just kind of in the high slot a little bit, just able to get a little bit of space and score. They were really able to generate goals that way. Then in the third, they just came out flat, and they had no shots on net. They had nothing. It was like 12 shots to 1 at one point, or something on those lines. And it was just non-stop, wave after wave of the Stars. The big boy started scoring. Blake Como gets a goal to tie it up. Ben gets his second point after, this is the weird thing about Sagan and Ben, was they were nowhere to be found in the play-in rounds in the first round as well. There was a game where they scored 7 goals and none of them got on the score sheet. And they just woke up this series. It's like someone pinched them and they're like, oh, like we're only 12 wins away from winning a Stanley Cup. Like you can kind of see it a little bit. And well, now they're 10. I'm not jinxing them or anything. They are legitimately 10. And then the Avs got a pretty good break. They haven't had a good break in a while. It was defensive turnover and someone blew a tire. And McKinnon was able to do a sweep feed to Rantanen. And by the way, this game featured the first game where the Avs have scored in this series without McKinnon featuring on the goal. So yeah, start to see where a lot of his offense comes from. Also got a lot of defensive injuries, so they did very well to hold on Colorado and buy themselves some time in this series. Kadri gets his 7th goal this postseason, and boy is that trade looking worse and worse. Not at the time it didn't. You can't judge some trades by what happens in hindsight. At the time, Kadri got suspended twice in a row, had 2 playoffs in a row, and had not been this playoff performer that the Leafs needed. And he puts them out to the lead, and yeah, from there they're able to get the empty net and win the game. Still like Khudobin, I still think he's better than Francois. So still giving the edge to Dallas. They just need to shut down. They just need to figure out the McKinnon piece of that puzzle, and I reckon they can win this. Next game's key, but Avs have to tie this up. They go down 3-1, they're done. They're done. Some teams can come back 3-1 if the series is a bit more even, but I even give the edge of this game to Dallas because I think they played better in periods. They just got a bit unlucky at certain times. And yeah, that's your lot. That's everything. So that's all the playoff games. So yeah. So today we have the Flyers and the Islanders, Game 3, so that was a back-to-back, so we'll see if the trend of the back-to-backs is one team wins one game and then wins the other, if that continues. And then Golden Knights Canucks, which is 1-1, which no one thought after Game 1 that would happen, but yeah, I mean, that's going to be a really fun game to watch, so I'm really looking forward to that one. And seeing how that goes. Fun fact, Canucks were the only team to not beat the Vegas Golden Knights in regulation until the last game Canucks won. So they had beaten them in overtime and a shootout, but not in regulation. They were the only team yet to do that, so there you go. Which is funny, because you would have thought come expansion that it would have been the other way around, right? They still had a team Vegas hadn't beaten. But yeah, so fun games ahead. We'll do a video on that, obviously, reviewing those 2 games at the end and covering the news, as I usually do, and I usually have one other video. Plus, NHL 21's dropping some shell stuff, so I don't know whether that's going to be tonight or tomorrow morning, but either way, that's going to be early. Early or late, those are my options. But if you did like this video, hit the like button. Otherwise, hit subscribe. If you made it all this way and you haven't subscribed, we're at 157. It really does help us out here at It's Hockey Night with Mike and I. To keep this thing going. If you do sub and we can see the growth and we see that there is something here, which I do think there is. Otherwise, yeah, comment down below. What did you think of games today? Is there anything I missed? And yeah, have a great day. See you and bye.